this video, we're going to be talking about how to identify parts of simple geometric figures. We're going to be talking about things like points, segments, lines, rays, and angles. We've been given two geometric figures. The first one here is a line with 3 points on the line, A, B, and C. So we're going to talk about how to identify points, segments, lines, and rays in this figure. So let's first talk about the points. The points on this line are A, B, and C. So we would identify the points as A, B, and C. And remember that a point is just a single spot. It's a single point in space. It doesn't have any width to it or distance. It's just a single point or a single spot, and we indicate it with a dot like this. So this dot right here and this A beside it means that this is the point A. This here is the point B. This is the point C. There's no other points indicated on the line. For example, there's no other point here that's been indicated, or here that's been indicated. The only points indicated on the line are the points A, B, and C, and we just write a point by writing its letter. So A means the point A, B means the point B, and C means the point C. What about segments or line segments? Well, you can think about a segment like a section. It's a section of a line and it has endpoints, so it doesn't extend infinitely. It has 2 endpoints, 1 point on either side of the segment. So for example, one segment of this line would be the segment A to B. In other words, it's the section of the line that extends between the point A and the point B, and its endpoints would be the points A and B. So we would write this segment AB as A, B, and we would put a line over it. A line over the AB indicates the line segment AB. Now it's important to remember that segments don't have any direction to them. So if we said the line segment BA, it would really be the same line segment because we're just saying this distance right here, the span from right here to right here, and whether we go from B to A or A to B, it's still the same part of the line. So listing the line segment BA wouldn't be a different line segment. We can only list it as AB, and conventionally we do list in alphabetical order. So we have the line segment AB. We could also say the line segment from A to C, and that would be this section of the line right here, and we would write that as the line segment AC with the line over it like that. We could also do the section here from B to C, and we could call that line segment BC. Now keep in mind that we can only list a segment when we know the endpoints. So remember we drew these 2 other points here on the line in orange that we said weren't defined? Well, we couldn't define a line segment from this point to this point because we don't know what these points are. So the only segments that we can list that are identified on this line are AB, AC, and BC. Now what about lines? Well, lines are just like line segments except that they extend infinitely in both directions. In other words, they don't have endpoints. So where segments have endpoints, for example, the line segment AB is defined on one end by A and on the other end by B, and it ends at the point A and the point B, lines extend infinitely in both directions. We just need 2 points along the line that define it. So we could define the line as the line AB, and then we draw a line over the top of it with arrows on both sides to show that it extends infinitely in both directions. So this would define the line pictured here simply because A and B are both on the line, so we connect them to get the direction of the line, and then we extend it infinitely out to the right and infinitely out to the left. But the line AB could define this line here. We could also define it with the points AC and say the line AC, or the points BC and say the line BC. All 3 of these, in fact, though, would be the exact same line because since the line extends infinitely in both directions, even if we defined it as the line AB and we were just thinking about right here, we could just continue extending the line in the exact same direction both ways, and we would get the line AC because this point is on the line. So really, all 3 of these represent the same line. It's just 3 different ways of writing the same line. Now a ray is something that's different than a segment and a line because remember a segment has 2 endpoints, one on each side. A line extends infinitely in both directions. It doesn't have an endpoint on either side. A ray has 1 endpoint on one side and extends infinitely in the other direction on the other side. And for that reason, because it has an endpoint on one side and extends infinitely in one direction, rays have directionality unlike lines and segments. So for example, the ray AB, we would write AB, and we would indicate a ray with a line over the top and an arrow just in one direction. This means that the endpoint is A, or the starting point is A, and that the ray extends in the direction of B. That would be different than the ray BA, which would start at B and extend toward A. So the ray AB would be this ray, the ray with a starting point here. The ray BA would be this ray with a starting point here, and those would be two different figures, two different rays. Now, because rays extend infinitely in their direction, the ray AC would be the same as the ray AB, because if we just continue extending this in the exact same direction, eventually we're going to get to C. So the ray AC is just a different way to write the ray AB. The rays CB and CA are also the same ray because they have the same starting point at C, and they extend infinitely in the direction of B or in the direction of A. Now let's talk about what it means to translate some of these ideas into a different figure, like a triangle. We could talk about the line segments of a triangle. Keep in mind that we also have points on this triangle. We have the point A here, so we could list that. We have the point B, and we have the point C here, so we could list those. But if we're talking about line segments, we could have the segment A to B, so AB. We could have the segment AC. We could also have the segment BC, and those would be the three different sides of the triangle. What about if we're talking about angles? Well, there are actually 4 different ways to describe every angle in this triangle. An angle is just a measure of degrees inside this triangle here. So if we say this angle, we mean the angle between this line here, AC, and this line here, AB. If we want to talk about the measurement of that angle in degrees, we need to be able to identify that angle. Well, what are the different ways that we could identify that angle? We could call it the angle A, and we would write it like this little L symbol here. It's not an L, but it's meant to describe an angle here, would be the angle A. Because we have 1 in this corner here, we can also describe it as the angle 1. And we can always describe an angle with 3 points. So if we say the angle BAC, really we're saying we start at B, we come down here to A, and then we go to C here. Whatever's created in that little corner is the angle BAC. We could go backwards and describe it the other way as the angle CAB, because we'd start here at C, we'd come to A, and we'd go to B, and that means the angle in that corner that we formed. What if we look at the angle here marked as 2? Well, we could describe that as the angle B, since it's in the corner where the point B is. We could call it the angle 2. We could also call it the angle ABC, because we'd start at A, we'd come up to B, and come down to C. Or we could call it the angle CBA. And if we look at our last angle here where the 3 is, we could call that angle C, angle 3, angle ACB, or angle BCA. Notice that when we were talking about angle A, the angle in this corner here, we had A in the middle of these angle descriptions. When we were talking about angle B, the one in this corner, we had B in the middle of these angle descriptions, and when we were talking about angle C, we had C in the middle. So that's one thing to remember. You're always starting at one of the other points, coming to C and going to the other point, and therefore C is going to be in the middle if you're describing the angle in this corner, or B is going to be in the middle of these descriptions when you're describing the angle in this corner, or if you're describing the angle in this corner, A is going to be in the middle if you describe the angle with the 3 points BAC or CAB. So those are a couple different ways to describe some basic geometric figures.